Welcome, everyone. Bienvenue, bienvenidos. Good morning, good afternoon. I want to thank you all for being here, for joining us today in this webinar. And I would like also to thank AVEBIOM for the great collaboration to build this webinar, which I am sure will foster collaboration between Canada and Spain. Just to briefly remind you, you have this in the screen already. Please use the chat function only for technical support and the Q&A to ask your questions to the speakers. Please also refer to whom you would like to address the question. I am going to introduce myself, and I am going to present you the agenda that we will cover today. I am Eugenia Perez within the Canadian Trade Commissioner's Service in Spain. I coordinate the forestry and biomass sector. Today we are going to have two initial presentations, and then my colleague Nadia Rego. She is the Trade Commissioner leading the clean technology file. See, she's there. She will be moderating a debate with Canadian and Spanish companies, and then we will close with the Q&A session, which will be open to all of you. I'm going to start presenting our first speaker today. He's Pablo Rodero. He's AVEBIOM project manager for European projects, international relations, and responsible for Spain of the EM+ certification system. Master of Science in Forestry Engineering, he has been working in the biomass sector for almost 16 years, focused on solid biomass quality. He's a member of the Bioenergy Europe's Director Board since 2015, and he's currently president of the European Pellet Council. Hi, Pablo. I'll leave you with Pablo. Pablo, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugenia, and thank you for the presentation. Welcome, bienvenue, bienvenidos, everybody. So in AVEBIOM is the Spanish Biomass Association. So our goal is to promote the sustainable development of the bioenergy sector in Spain. We were founded in 2004, and we represent all the value chains of the bioenergy from the forest and all the agricultural residues to the consumer, because we have even ESCOs companies that they are consuming, and we have in the middle we have biofuels producers or boiler manufacturers, stove manufacturers. So we have covered all the chains, all the value chain. We are promoting about all sustainability and quality in the biomass. We think that we have to make it very well to implement biomass. We have a strong competence here in Spain and in Europe in general, and we have to make it excellent in an excellent way. So we are promoting biomass of quality with EM+, for pellets, and Biomass UT is another certification for Mediterranean biofuels, meaning olive stones or wood chips, branches for olive trees, for example. And we are also starting to promote SUR, that is a system for certifying the sustainability in order to fulfill the RED II directive in Europe. We have, as Eugenia told, a strong presence in European international associations, and also world-based, like World Bioenergy Association. And we are members of, founder members of European Pellet Council, and we are nowadays the president. So this is for me the main message slide. So I wanted to transmit you that in Spain we have a huge potential. Mainly I'm talking about agrobiomass, this presentation. So we will see through the data that there is like 13 million tons unexploited. Now we have the total market of biomass is like 10 million tons per year. So we have unexploited and potential agrobiomass that we can use. We have the need, we have the market is gonna increase with the objectives 2030, 2050, and the change to the policies to change the energy model with the RIPs as the plans, national plans that the Commission has conducted in the member states has conducted in all the countries, so they can explain to the Commission how they are going to fulfill the objectives for 2030. So we have a strong, ambitious target to 2030, and in 2050 is expected to get a full decarbonized bioeconomy. And this means that we will need bioenergy for fulfill the targets, basically. Of course, this use of the agrobiomass has to be above all sustainable, and we have to fulfill the quality policies. I'm saying so because agrobiomass in general is a little more complicated than the combustion of good fuels. It's not the same that with pellets or with chips. It's a little more complicated in some cases. There are a lot of range of agrobiomass, but it's generally speaking more complicated. So first, we have a huge potential in agrobiomass. We have potential about all prunings of olive trees or pruning of vineyards that they are not being used right now. And also, I wanted to remark that it's an opportunity to Spain, because most of the potential is located in areas where there is almost not population. Maybe in Canada this is normal, but in Europe it's not so normal. In Spain, the population is more in the center, in Madrid, in Barcelona, in the coast, but in the central Spain is quite empty, and there is the same density as in Laponia, for example, in Finland. So 1-2 people per square kilometer, no? So very, very low density, and the main thing is that they are losing a lot of population. So that they are emigrating to the cities in order to find jobs, no? And we think in the association that bioenergy is an opportunity. So this is a little the statistics we have for agrobiomass. In green is woody biomass, and in yellow is agrobiomass. And we can see the different feedstocks with the potentials. We made an estimation within our project. The potential is the total quantity is in dry matter tons, and in the right column we have the available quantities, that is removing what is this impossible to collect or is already being used, no? So the big number I want to retain that you retain is that we have about 13 million tons available to use in Spain in agrobiomass. Yeah, some of the feedstock, as you can see, they are not easy ones, but still there is this potential. Again, we have statistics. Mainly, I wanted to remark the potential in woody biomasses. Woody, not forestry, but woody from agriculture, no? Like vineyards, olive trees, citrics we have in the coast a lot, and also other kind of when you remove the old tree that is making fruit. So I don't know how the exact word in English, renewables, no, of the plantation. So this kind of biomass, we have a very big production. It's more or less the same number, but without removing all the technically impossible to take advantage of. So the main, I want not to go through all the numbers, but just that you retain the message that Spain is a very rich country in agrobiomass, about all compared to the proportions of Europe. Canada is a very big country, but for example, we are the first world producer of olive oil. So that means that there is a lot of residue of the industrial process and from the prunings that every 2 years, it has to be cutted. And also we have the third, we are the third world wine producers. So this kind of crops, they are resulting a lot of biomass. No, for example, from the olive oil production process, we can obtain olive cake, which is mainly using electrical generation, and we can obtain olive stones that is more or less the same quality as a good pellet, so very good quality for domestic uses. And also we have the prunings that is more or less in the middle of quality. We can use for industrial, but if it is refined and valorized, we can use for thermal uses. No? So meaning that we have a lot of resources, and about all the primary biomasses, the prunings and the leftovers of crops, they are unexploited. And nowadays they are unexploited, and nowadays many times they are banned every year to remove, because of phytosanitary reasons, they are banned in fires, open fires every year. So we can, as I was saying, we can split into the agrobiomasses. We can split in a first group that we call it agroindustrial byproducts, or we can call it secondary biomass. That is the byproducts of the oil production, dry fruit cells production, almond production, for example, meaning that all the agro-industry residues or byproducts. No? This kind of biomasses, they have been traditionally used, and there is a relatively well-developed market. Because the logistic is easy, they are stored in the same place, and there's a big quantity that the producer of the main product has to take away. So there is traditionally a market that is established. But the main thing with these biomasses is that not always is used in the best conditions possible, because they are using directly, for example, the olive stones with a lot of moisture, and they are being using them in industrial, for example. And the way, I think, the correct way to use these biomass is that when you dry and when you valorize, when you remove the fines, and you can use it with a lot of more added value to domestic boilers or stoves. No? And also in a second part, we have the leftovers, the primary biomass, and this market is absolutely not developed. There are just some heroic examples, and about all they are using in electric generation. They are not absolutely a hit market, no, for this kind of biomasses. We have a lot of barriers, logistics, not easy combustion, as I was telling before. We have not a specific equipment so far, or not for all the biomasses at least. So it's a little more complicated, but there's a huge potential and here's where there is a niche for development and for innovation. So these are nowadays the markets. So I was telling you, I want you to retain the main figures. 8 millions we are producing. So from the total available was like 20 something million tons, we can remove the 8 million. So available, as I was telling, is like 10 to 13 million tons of dry matter of biomasses. No, main fuels in Spain, wood chips and forestry biomass is quite important. You can see there are two columns, is domestic uses and industrial uses. We have several bioenergy power plants that they are mainly using they are using wood chips, but they are using a lot of agrobiomass, meaning olive cake and wood chips, but coming from agrobiomass, no, from olive trees, running, so vineyards, and not forestry wood chips. And yeah, the main agrobiomass is, as I was telling before, is olive stones, olive cake, and all the cells from the dry trees, no, from the almond, from the pines, and from the hazelnuts, for example. We were making an estimation about, because I was telling you that there is a ambitious target for 2030, and we more or less estimate the quantity of biomass that is needed. And we have now more or less the consumption of 4,225 kilotons, oil equivalent kilotons. And we expect an increase of 25%, meaning we will achieve 5,300 kilotons. Where is coming from? Obviously, the pellets will increase, the wood chip will increase a little, but a lot of this increase will come, like more or less 800 kilotons, will come from new chains, new value chains, that nowadays is zero. And in some years, in 2030, we expect some kilotons, around 800 in total, coming from new agrobiomass chains, supply chains. And in total, we will need 3.3 million tons of biomass. So, as I was telling before, we have a potential unused potential of 8 millions. So it is completely, absolutely feasible. Only with biomass is to fulfill this necessity. You have also one thing of the biomass in general is that is price is cheap. Pellets are already cheap, but in general, agrobiomass is much cheaper. If you compare, pellets is around 5 centimes per kilowatt hour. So you can see it's almost the half the price of most of the biomasses, agrobiomasses, no. But the main problem is I was telling is the logistics, that sometimes is not so cheap, and you have to optimize all the chains and the recollection and the combustion. Here you can see all the biomasses, but compared with fossil fuels in Spain, there are Spanish prices. And as you can, I was telling before, the agrobiomass is well below half of the other biomasses, but much cheaper than the fossil fuel. So we have an opportunity there. I wanted to say some words about the agrobioheat. We are making a project, a European project, to support heat boilers and heat stoves, heat projects from agrobiomass. No? For that, we are making a lot of, we are identifying success cases, we are reporting success cases, we are identifying initiatives to support them, we are making an observatory where we put all the information. If you need, for example, supplier of certain agrobiomass, or you need suppliers of boiler adapted to agrobiomass, you can go into the observatory and you can have this data. No? So if you need information, you have a project you need any information of agrobiomass, you can go to the web agrobiohit.eu and you can find information. Okay. So I was telling we have the potential, and I was telling there is EU policies that will push us to increase the renewable energy consumption, and mainly the biomass, that is the bioenergy, is the main source of renewable in Europe. This is because we have a strong objectives, 40% of reduction in ESG in 2030, and now they are discussing to increase that quantity. And as I was telling before, in 2050, we expect that we will have a decarbonized. And there is also other policies that we will push for this increase in the consumption. So we have the opportunity. And just the only thing, the only bad is that we will have to do it in a proper way. This is an images of bad practices. For example, this is the burning that every year is happening in Spain, or this is obsolete technologies. This is something that we have to avoid if we want that the development of agrobiomass and biomass in general is going to be sustainable. No? So we have to fulfill all the regulations in air quality, sustainability, if we want that the development is fine. And this is it from my side. Thank you very much for your attention. And I leave you the contact details in case you have any doubt. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pablo. That was great. That was super interesting. And I love that you mentioned the niche in the market. I'm sure that this has interested our audience a lot. I would like to introduce you now our next speaker, Murray Mclaughlin. He's the president of Mclaughlin Consultants and advisor to Bioindustrial Innovation Canada and to Forest Products Innovation. PhD from Cornell University. He has held various positions in the private, government, and nonprofit sectors, such as Director of Business Development for the Canadian Light Source, President of Ontario Agri-Food Technologies, and Deputy Minister of Saskatchewan Agriculture and Food, among others. He is going to introduce us the Canadian biomass market. So, Murray, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugenia. I appreciate the introduction. And I look forward to the presentation here and giving people some flavor of the Canadian biomass market and how the bioeconomy is gradually developing in Canada. The title of Bioenergy Innovation and Projects is the conference, and the Canadian biomass market and the bioeconomy is the area that I will cover off very briefly here. Quick outline, Biodesign Canada, an industry strategy, Canada's bioindustrial sectors, biomass in Canada, focus on the forestry side, some value, talk about our value chains, the wood pellet market very briefly, and then clusters in Canada, and then quickly summarize. So Biodesign Canada is a national bioeconomy strategy that was developed by the industry 2 years ago for biomass and on the agricultural and forestry side. It had 4 key priorities: creating agile regulations and government policy that enables innovation, establishing biomass supply and stewardship of Canada's natural capital in agriculture and forestry, and building strong companies and value chains, making Canada a bioeconomy leader and a country in which to invest, and building strong innovation ecosystems with an emphasis on high-performing clusters. I think these are all key priorities in building that sector around biomass, and part of it, number 3 and 4, certainly focus on the need to have international partnerships as well if we're going to build this sector. So Biodesign Canada, as I mentioned, is to establish the biodesign priorities. It will take local and international businesses and investors coming together in partnership. It It will take partnerships to ensure the use of biomass with the best technologies. And these partnerships do include industries and global institutes with innovation expertise. On the right-hand side here shows VTT in Finland, and visited that a couple of years ago, and they've got a great facility for doing research around biomass and agriculture and forestry. And they do partner with some of our companies and institutes in Canada as well. But it's critical to build those partnerships as we move forward on an international basis. Canada's bioindustrial sector, the four key areas: biofuels, ethanol, and biodiesel are the primary focuses today. Jet fuel is just starting to come into play, as well as biogas. Renewable natural gas is becoming interesting. And we're starting to see a lot of first and second generation biomasses being evaluated these days. Biorefineries is a key area for bio-based chemicals and oils. And then biomaterials, textiles, plastics, composites, and paper are all part of that sector. And then the bioenergy, which is biomass, renewable natural gas, heat and power, and then emerging technology sectors. So a lot of activity in Canada around developing these technologies, and it's early days for a lot of it. The picture on the right hand side here is actually the biosuccinic acid plant that was built by BioAmber and now is being managed by LCY Biosciences in Sarnia. They produce full-scale biosuccinic acid these days and market that into the industries. Going green is good for the bottom line. Government's significant commitment to clean technology and carbon pricing is very critical to build this industry. Greenhouse gas reduction commitments by 2030 and 2050. As already mentioned in the last presentation, Canada is building some strong requirements around that as well, which will drive the development of this industry much faster than it has been in Canada. Sustainable infrastructure development, critical to build the industry. Canada has 20-year patent life on new technologies, which really helps encourage the development of the technologies, and we have strong research and development tax credits as well for the science and development sector. And we have large pools of graduates and trained technology people to work in these sectors. The picture here on the right is Woodland Biofuels. This is their research pilot facility. They're just now in the process of building a demo facility in Sarnia around the woody biomass to biofuels and energy as well. Biomass in Canada. I put these two slides up just to give you a flavor for how much area there is in biomass. The map on the left is the agricultural area. The areas in yellow or gold are agriculture. In Canada, we have about 65 million hectares of agricultural land. Of that, about 45 to 50 million hectares are in crop development. And the bulk of that is in the prairies, the three western provinces. You can see that big area in Western Canada, but there's still significant agriculture in Ontario, Quebec, and along the St. Lawrence Seaway in Eastern Canada as well. So lots of areas for biomass, lots of acreage, a lot of work going on now in corn stover, wheat straw, and barley straw, and also fibers in hemp and flax fibers in those areas as well. So looking at ways we can build and develop that market. The other slide on the forestry here gives you an idea of the acreage of forestry that's in green. And I'll just switch over to the next slide, which gives us a chance to talk about that acreage or hectareage that's there for forestry in the Canadian sector. Canada's leadership role in certified forest is critical to this building the sector. We have 166 million hectares of independently certified sustainable forest that can be utilized for building, for biomass production or other utilizations. Pulp and paper industry, of course, is part of the Canadian paper industry, pulp and forestry industry as well. So we've got 347 million hectares of forest. I think we're the second largest country for area of forest land in the world, and but the critical piece is that 166 million hectares that's independently certified as sustainable and can be harvested in a managed way and renewed. So that when you start doing the math on that, it gives you a lot of a lot of potential tonnage. We don't use a whole lot of that acreage anywhere near that today in the production that we do in pulp and paper and the lumber industries. I just put this next couple of slides up to talk about CRIBE a little bit, just as one of our centers. CRIBE is a Center for Research and Innovation and Economy focused on forestry. And they built a group called Next4 in Thunder Bay, which are industry leaders working together to accelerate new technologies and products for Ontario. They're focused on Ontario, but it's an example of a potential cluster in the forestry area and a good partner to work with. CRIBE operates Ontario Forest-Based Innovation Network. Their industry-led system is open for collaborative forums, and the ecosystem of industry leaders work together to create detailed action plans to market realization and building the forestry industry in Ontario. This slide I put up just to give you a flavor too. The data for decision making is what, where, how much investment is needed, and what is the opportunity in Ontario? Where is the opportunity for wood in Ontario? How much will it cost to access it? And the investment attraction tools that will help people build that industry out. And this was tools that CRIBE had put together for the forestry industry in Ontario. So if you go on their website, you can access this, and it gives you the answers to these what, where, how much, and investment attraction information for building forestry industries beyond where they are today in Ontario. And I think other provinces now are starting to adapt something similar on their forestry sectors as well. Right here, when I started the Bioindustrial Innovation Canada about 11 years ago in Sarnia, one of the things that we had to do is really look at, our whole role was to help build the bio-based industry in the country and make Sarnia a cluster. And Sarnia is or had been a cluster in the petroleum industry for that. Prior to that, and petroleum was developed in Sarnia for 150 years. First discovered in 1858, and just outside of Sarnia where the oil was first discovered, and then Sarnia became the central location for processing. That's the blue circles here. That is the value chain for the petroleum industry, starting fossil-based feedstocks to the fuels, the primary chemicals, the polymers, the finished products, advanced manufacturing, and out to consumers. So the question we had is, where does the bio industry fit into that value chain? Where can we start displacing some of the petroleum products that come through there? And as you can see, the bio-based feedstock sector, it feeds in at the fuels and energy side for ethanol, butanol, biodiesel, and biojet goes in there and then down the value chain. But also bio-based feedstock can go in at the primary chemical side, things like succinic acid, isobutanol, levulinic acid, and a number of other chemicals now we're starting to see manufactured and produced and go into that chain, and then move down the value chain from there, from primary chemicals into through PLA to butanediol, the carbon fibers to PET and the ecospheres and other things, move down into polymers and chemicals and on into finished products. And then the other area, of course, where we can fit in is processed biomass, lignin, nanocrystal cellulose, natural fibers. They could go in at the finished products area and link in with the polymers and chemicals to produce bio-based products and biomaterials, and move down that value chain to advanced manufacturing on to consumers. So you can move into auto parts, finished furniture, clothing, textiles. Other areas, of course, are foam production. A lot of bio-based foam now going into the auto industry for the auto industry, also going into things like mattresses and so on. So we're seeing a lot more biomaterial starting to fill up that value chain, and that's the way we looked at how we can move into the value chain and who the partners need to be to work with us. Just very briefly touch on the data from Canadian Wood Pellet Association. The graph here is old data. Unfortunately, I apologize for that, but that's what I could find. Basically, our wood pellet industry started in the early 2000s or late 1900s into a small area, but the bulk of the pellets that we produce come out of the forestry side, and they're all pretty well all exported into Europe or other parts of the world. The 2017 production was 2.04 million metric tons, and 2019 was 2.67 million metric tons of pellets that again bulk being exported. The Canadian wood pellet trade balances in tons is what we looked at, but the Wood Pellet Association database and website is the access where you can access a lot of information about wood pellets in Canada. Just wanted to quickly touch here barriers to local investment for pellet utilization. And this does come from the pellet organization. The low cost of natural gas for building an industrial use in Canada is the petroleum-based products are low cost, and it's tough to be able to enter into that market competitively in Canada, but that's changing. A lack of district energy systems infrastructure, which is something that Canada doesn't have a lot of district energy systems. We are starting to see a few of them develop now. A limited participation of municipalities in energy infrastructure. No incentives for power plants to choose biomass over natural gas. There's a long cost recovery period for residential solid fuel heating equipment, and therefore discourages people from using it. A clean fuel standard designed to address industry carbon leakage, climate policy instability. That is changing, and it will change very rapidly over the next year or two. Feedstock supply chains, risk and the access to them. That's a reference, of the references stated here, and you will have access to those slides, so you'll be able to pull up the full reference and see more information. And I said at the bottom, however, times are changing. Canada is just starting to implement their renewable fuel standards and their climate change goals for 2030 and 2050. They're very similar to what Spain has as well, but carbon pricing right now will come in at $30 a ton, but will by 2030 be $170 a ton. And I see that as a key driver in moving us more to the bio-based economy and bio-based pellets and so on into the marketplace in Canada as well. Just wanted to talk briefly about some clusters, clusters with woody biomass focus. A few key clusters with that are Prince George in British Columbia, Drayton Valley in Alberta, Thunder Bay in Ontario, and Sarnia, Ontario is a combination of wood and agriculture. And we got Trois-Rivières-le-Tuc in Quebec that's building a major focus around woody biomass and biofuels. And then the Innovation Hub in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia is working with their province to build more activity around biomass in the woody biomass sector. So we're starting to see more activity starting in Canada through some of these clusters. The map on the right-hand side shows you where there are a number of clusters across Canada that are focused on agriculture and forestry and other aspects of biomass, but all biomass is a key part of all of these clusters. Each cluster is unique, and I put this slide in because I think it's always important for people to think of what are the common traits if you want to have a cluster, build a cluster, and what does it take? And I've been involved in cluster development for over 30 years, and these are things that I've learned and believe in. What it takes, belief in the need. You have to believe in a community. The community has to believe in the need that this is important for that community, important for job creation, important for business development. And it takes the people. The people have to believe in that need, not just one individual, but it takes a whole community to come together. So it's total commitment, everyone on the same train going in the same direction. And then it does take patience. You don't build a cluster over a year or two. It takes 10 to 20 years to really see a cluster start to get really established and start flourishing. It takes leadership, not from the community as well as the organization itself and from the industries in the community to step up as leaders. It takes focus on the future, and it takes partnerships, governments, academic researchers, industry, and international partners. A lot of times when you're building a cluster, the key focus has to be in attracting other businesses to those communities, because with the knowledge and the expertise and the capability. And that's really what's happening in places like Sarnia these days. We are seeing companies come in because of the infrastructure there to build out for the North American market. One of the strategic advantages for businesses in the bioeconomy, um, abundance of biomass, government with strong interest in building the sector and have a focus on bioproducts and circular economy, world-class research and development facilities to provide support, an educated workforce to fill positions. Industry partners are available when needed, such as experienced fabricators for building facilities, international trade agreements making it easier to move products around the world, a well-established transportation system to move products to market, trucks, rail, ship, and air. And that's when our market, of course, is the North American market, which includes the United States and Mexico. And we have the ability to move transport material within a 10 to 12 hour truck drive to 54% of the US GDP. So very capable of moving products around the country. And it's very important that I should mention on the fabricating side, when Bioenergy built their succinic acid plant, their full-scale succinic acid plant in Sarnia, they thought they would have to go outside of Sarnia to get 50% for 50% of the manufacturing and building of that plant. As it turned out, once they got into Sarnia and got established and started meeting the fabricators, 95% of that plant was built right in Sarnia with the fabrication capabilities there. They just had to go outside for highly specialized pieces that were moved in from where there's only one manufacturer in the world for that part or whatever. But the 95% of the plant was built locally with the local fabricators. In the key to building a bioeconomy, there's 6 key pieces that are critical to building that bioeconomy. Build international partnerships, focus on cluster development, strong support for research and development, recognize that innovation is a key step to a solid bioeconomy. And remember, no one has all the answers. It takes partnerships and collaboration, and you have to maintain that focus. It takes time, and you can't turn your eyes off that focus. You have to be focused on where you want to get to and continue to work toward that. And that's really back into the cluster development side. The 2 pictures on the right here, the top one I mentioned earlier was Woodland Biofuels. They're located in Sarnia, and the one on the bottom is the biosuccinic acid plant. They're located in Sarnia as well. So those were 2 critical businesses to come into Sarnia that are focused on different aspects. Woodland Biofuels is focused on woody biomass, and the succinic acid one is focused on sugars coming from corn stover and corn to go into those fermenters. So both of them had biomass thinking in their background as they build out their facilities. I want to thank you for listening. Look forward to questions later, and leave it with that. And thank you again, and appreciate you taking the time to participate in this workshop, and look forward to the rest of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Murray. That was great, and I couldn't agree more with the aspect that the bioeconomy and the bioenergy to be developed need patience and need government commitment. That I think is crucial. We are seeing that in the European Union. We are going to start now with the roundtable, with the debate. So I'm going to leave you in the hands of Nadia. You have her already.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. My name is Nadia, and I'm going to moderate this debate, whose purpose is to discuss a bit more on what innovation projects and opportunities exist in the bioenergy sector between Canada and Spain. So I'm very thankful today to have a seasoned panel of Canadian and Spanish speakers with me. I'm gonna let each one of them to introduce themselves. So quite briefly, please, Sonia, could you start by saying who you are, your organization, and what you do?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Good morning, everybody, and good afternoon for the one in Spain. And thank you for the Canadian Embassy in Madrid to host this event. My name is Sonia Shukri, and I'm the president and CEO of Global Bioenergy. We are in Vancouver, Canada. Our business mainly is in torrefaction. Our patent technology can process any type of biomass left over from forest operation into biocoal and biochar. This is going to be serving power plant, cement, and steel industry. We can take any type of waste as long as it's a woody waste to process it. Biocoal is a clean product, sustainable alternative to natural gas and fossil coal. It does have exactly the same characterization as the coal. It has the same BTU value as coal. You can mix it, ship it, and store it like the coal, and you grind it and feed it to the boiler without making any changes to the infrastructure of the end user. We can as well tailor the product according to client specification. Our second product is a biochar. It's produced from a fraction of the activated carbon. It is used for fracking industry to eliminate selenium in wastewater. It can be also used as fertilizing for fast-growing trees. Our third product, which we are into research and production now, is called Terra Preta. On between the process of our technology, we can extract as well oil, which can be used for pharmaceutical or cosmetic products. That is about it, and thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Farkas, could you briefly introduce yourself?
So thank you for everybody for being here today, and thank you the organization for inviting us to be in this webinar. I'm Farkas Martinez, sales manager for Prodesa North America. So I take care of sales and project development from the office here in Atlanta, in Georgia, the United States. So in Prodesa, we are an engineering and manufacturing firm for biomass plants. We supply them under a turnkey approach to our customers in most of the cases. This means a big part of our business is wood pellet plants, and also we're working in agri-products plants to make pellets out of agri-products. And we're seeing that this is having an increase, a certain increase in the last year. So we've participated and developed several of these plants. We are because we are very targeted on our product, pellet plants and biomass plants. We are a very international company. We look for projects wherever they are. So our headquarters are in Spain, but we opened our branch office here in Atlanta in 2011, so 10 years ago. And we also have other offices, branch offices in Southeast Asia, Russia, and other places of the world, just to be able to develop these projects in those parts of the world. One other additional thing that set us apart as a company is that we also operate the plants that we produce when this is required. No? So this means that we are continuously also learning about the process, about how the biomass evolves and is transformed throughout the process. And we are bringing that continuously to new developments and to the new plants. So it's very difficult that we have two plants that are identical. No? We're always improving our processes and improving our plants. So that's a little bit of Prodesa and what I do there.
Thank you very much. Bernie, I think it's your turn. We go back to Canada.
Yes, hello everyone, and thanks for inviting us and giving us the opportunity to speak to what we do and listen to all the wonderful things you all do and are looking forward to. We're a consulting company, I guess, very practical. Not a vendor of equipment, but we support a lot of them in developing their stuff and tying them all together and doing the infrastructure and concrete buildings, feed systems. We are mechanical primarily in terms of flow equipment and design and develop, and we would definitely be using vendors that have got prototype number 300 instead of developing from scratch where we can. But there's many things that fall in between that we fit, some conveyors and different things. And certainly many plants have a number of different vendors involved, and we can be the liaison between all of them to make sure that they actually work well together and are connected and considered in every way. We've been doing that for 40 years as a company, and working through mostly North America. primarily in the forest industry, sawmill, a little bit of pellet, but mostly sawmill, reman, plywood, board plants, pulp mills, and many of those are looking for ways to use their byproducts, being chips and shavings and sawdust, as some of the pulp mills shut down. Particularly, they're looking for alternatives to where to apply this. We've also done some work in biomass where we are doing boiler plants, wood-fired boiler plants, gasification, but more in a rougher, not pellet version, where we break the wood down into with hog to a size where it can be burnt in a boiler or a gasifier, and then made power from, rather than going as far as making pellets of them, which are more for perhaps traveling greater distance. And these are usually trying to keep about a 50-mile radius from the power plant, so they don't have to be broken into as far down as into pellets. They can be in a more raw form and less manufacturing to create them in that manner. But many are doing pellets too that want to ship them to Europe or over to Japan and in Asia and places like that too. So there's lots of that going on as well. I think we do buildings. We do sell buildings and design them too, and we do dry kilns for lumber, but that doesn't really apply either. But anyhow, that's pretty much us.
Thank you, Bernie. And just last but not least, Elias, could you introduce yourself?
Okay, so good morning, everyone. So, well, my name is Elias Hernandez. I'm the Chief Technical Officer at ENSO. Although ENSO is a very new company, but well, the steering committee, the people in the company, well, have a very huge background in the biomass business. So, in fact, most of us come well from different companies in this sector, such as well, one of the biggest pulp and paper players, ENCE, or the other companies here in Spain that play a significant role in the biomass business. So, well, ENSO now, well, is participated by two companies. So let's say, our ownership structure has two shareholders, two French shareholders. One is T2, and well, Tico is one of the biggest equity investor well, in France, and the other is one of the biggest oil companies in Europe, Total. So, and both together, well, let's say, have set up, well, a new transition fund, well, in order, well, to foster and encourage the energy transition. So, one of these, let's say, tools, well, to carry out this energy transition is ENSO. So, and we play different roles in this biomass sector. In fact, we are in the forest, let's say, business, but we participate in all the, let's say, activities included in the supply chain, in the construction, and even in the operation and maintenance. So, and that's the reason that we have, for instance, a subsidiary focus on manufacturing biomass and biomass boilers. So, although we are able to, well, manufacture well, here recovery steam generators or any other sort of boilers, so mainly for incinerators or co-incineration, as well as our, let's say, manufacturing branch. So we have, well, an O&M activity. In fact, well, with this branch, well, we are collaborating with our clients in different power plants and in thermal facilities, so providing O&M support. And even we are able to structure all the financing process for our own asset and for third parties. So in fact, we're able to provide a full wrap in a, for instance, in a project finance. And in terms of where we are, so our headquarters are here in Madrid, although we're able, and we have assets in Portugal, and we are deploying our activities mainly in Western Europe and in the UK. So hopefully, so maybe in Canada shortly, but for the time being, we are focused on Western Europe.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So see, I wasn't lying when I said that I was surrounded by experts in the field that have been working in this for many years all around the world. So that's something. And I think the first topic I would like to bring to all of you, it's the unavoidable, because digital transformation is affecting every sector and every activity, especially since the pandemic hit us in 2020. And this is obvious just seeing how we're meeting today, but virtual presentation. But in the case of biomass plants, who tend to be quite traditional in its conception and use, what benefits have you seen in your own company of the use of information technologies in the process itself, or what uses or what benefits have you seen in helping others applying digital transformation tools to their process? Let's start with Focus, for example.
Okay, so from our point of view, this has been very relevant, the digital transformation. It's true that I think there are three big areas. No, we see it all around, but there are three big areas in which you see this digital transformation. One of them is for monitoring of production. So we see the plant managers, for instance, they are not at the plant. They want to check how the plant is performing, if there's something going on at the plant, something not working properly, whatever. No, they are able to do that because they connect from the distance, and they're going to be able to track down exactly what's going on. The same for upper management. If you the upper management knows every day and every time they want to connect what's going on at the plant, how the plant is performing. That's one of the big pieces, no, that we've seen. Another very relevant one is for troubleshooting. No? So we, as the suppliers of technology, we receive a call from our plant saying, okay, something is not working here, but we don't know what's going on. No? So now we have devices to connect, to see exactly what's going on, physically see it in our screen, and be able to work with them, to interact with them, to solve the matter. No? So that's very relevant because it reduces downtime by a lot, and also increase the productivity, no, and the production at the plant. And the third one that we're seeing that is affecting a lot is for inventory management and the integration in between supplier and client or plant operator. No, we're able to see exactly how they are doing with wear parts, how they are doing in the plant, if they need more, if we need to supply them more or not. We call them, we confirm everything, and we just ship them dies, rollers, or whatever is necessary. So from our point of view, we've seen a big change in these concepts.
Following the conversation, so and about this point, about this matter, I would like to point out that in order to frame this topic, so it's quite important to look backwards and see where we are. So in terms of let's say artificial intelligence and control architecture and so on. So because at the end, the current state for most of the bioenergy facilities, including, of course, biomass power plants or cogeneration power plants, or even pellet facilities, is that all these facilities are based on a traditional control architecture. So based on 420 milliamperes, usually with hardwired, and usually, let's say, with operator-driven decision-making tools. So, and at the end, let's say that although we implement in all these facilities and power plant, and we have so SCADAs, DCS, and PLCs that are acquiring data at all the times. So, but the reality is that at the end, the decision maker is usually the operator, the panel operator. So apart from some, let's say, optimized control loops. So, and of course, it brings certain concerns and certain difficulties and challenges. So because at the end, so one of the main questions that we have when we are providing, well, O&M support is how far we are from the best operational point. So because at the end, when we are operating a power plant, for instance, so well, is the panel operator perception, feeling, well, the main input in terms of saying that, well, the plant is being operated properly. But the reality is that we don't know where we are. So, and at the end nowadays, we have, well, a lot of IT tools that we can manage and we can implement in our power plant, such as, well, machine learning, such as big data, well, even with neural networks tools, and even using fuzzy logic and so on and so on. The reality is that although we have all that information in our PLCs, in our, let's say, workstation, so we are not using most of that information to enhance our performance in the power plant. So we leave that decision in operators' hands. And that's not the best, at least, well, nowadays. So maybe 20 years ago, okay, that's right. So, well, the tools that we had were not so powerful. And that's something that, let's say, we have to consider. So when we design or we retrofit an existing facility, that we have at least using and applying these analytic capabilities, using, for instance, the big data infrastructure, or even having a different approach based on ETL, extract, transform, load. So by applying this data integration system, companies can extract and acquire, let's say, data and transform data into a ready to consume format. So providing valuable information for the operation, okay? But also in terms of early detection of problems or loss of performance or energy in the current state. So of course, at the end, so all of this so must be translated into economics. So, and at least from our perspective and our experience in different facilities, it's quite blatant that the impact in the economics at the bottom line, so is huge. So in fact, well, the returns in terms of payback usually is less than 2 years. So at least, and nowadays, so although, let's say, biomass is not in terms of maybe power generation, is not the, let's say, cutting edge technology. So because all of us know that, well, PV power plants or wind farms where are currently applying this artificial intelligence in order, well, to get better their performances. But in biomass, it's a little bit trickier. So because, well, we don't have, let's say, so specific variables of parameters to control. So in PV or in wind farm, let's say, once you have, well, the solar radiation, so the temperature, the bulb rate temperature, or even the wind velocity, let's say, you have most of the input you require in order to, let's say, foresee and adequate the performance on your plant, or how far you are from the best performance point. So in biomass or in bioenergy facilities, it's trickier because biomass, so it's not an homogeneous source. So all of us know that, well, that's the trickiest point that we usually handle and face when we design or construct or operate a facility. And all these IT tools come here, let's say, to enhance, well, this, let's say, package of performance that we have. So, and well, our experience in the, let's say, in setting up some of these tools in some facilities, again, have been very, very productive and very successful.
So what I hear, Elias, is that the benefits, and for Focus as well, the benefits are great, but there are some complexities. But what I do like, you quickly mentioned here the retrofitting, and that's also an aspect that we would like to get your views on, because retrofitting, especially traditional plants, can be also, well, I guess you wonder sometimes when it's worth retrofitting and making the effort of retrofitting an existing plant versus sometimes designing one from scratch, especially considering all the new systems and tools that you can now include that probably 10 years or 15 years before weren't available. So I'd like to get Bernie's views on this part and how you usually approach retrofitting projects in Canada.
Well, we have different stages of, well, how much money they have, let's just say. And so there's sort of low tech, medium tech, and high tech. And, you know, there's associated costs with each of those that may or may not be affordable for some of the levels. So when considering if they want to start over, you know, it would pretty much come to is if the costs are similar to adjust a lot and not really get enough payback on that money, and then how well heeled they are in terms of finding funding to do the bigger and more up-to-date new plant with all the latest technology. Sometimes the latest technology is still a little bit in the non-proven department yet as well. So sometimes it might be a little better to not be the first one to try some things, especially if you are concerned about cost and you're really reaching out, and it could bring your company down if it didn't work out. But there always are exciting things to do, and you try them in parts and pieces, and keep developing. But the retrofit is often changing of the plants in using kind of more proven things to start with, I guess, rather. And the ones that are brand new starting out are probably more likely going to try more of the new technology combined in it than those that are already running and want to upgrade. And that's what we found anyway, and generally.
Great. So I really like that you mentioned here the cost of pioneering, because that's sometimes something that we do not mention, but incorporating innovation sometimes has this dark side, if we can say that. And who else would like to talk about this? Perhaps Farkus, do you have something to add on the retrofit from Prodesa's perspective around the world?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you were saying, it's true that you have to see on one project. No, what applies to one project may not be real, and the same thing for other projects. We've done retrofitting a lot of existing pellet plants. Actually, we've been very recently in the last month awarded the retrofitting of a big plant in Louisiana, a wood pellet plant, big capacity. normally the reasons in our experience why plants need retrofitting is several reasons. No, one of them is that they're all plants. There are plants that they have been working for 15 years, 10 years already. So things are not running now as they used to run at the beginning. No, that's one of the reasons that we see. Another one is poor design and engineering. So at the time it was manufactured, for some reason, something overlooked something that was relevant, and that's something that the plant has been dragging for the last years. So all in a sudden, someone has the investment to make that modification. And another reason that we see is equipment that is not performing well. No? So you need to replace it for any reason. And the principal reasons in pellet plants that we see for this happening is dust mitigation. That's a big one, because plants that all in a sudden, at the beginning when they were designed, nobody took care about dust mitigation. That was not a big issue at that time, but very recently, with all the fire risks and hazards, in order to reduce those hazards, this is a big thing. So that's something that we have done and we are doing in many plants. Also, to increase availability, so plants that are running less hours or fewer number of hours that they used to, they want to make them work at 100% capacity. No? Addition of firefighting and spark detection, that's something that in the last decade is mandatory. I mean, nobody wants to build a plant now that is not including that. But some years ago, it was not so common. No? So you have to adapt to these new developments and these new regulations that affect dust containment and fire risk mitigation. And also some others, no? Like all in a sudden, you need to regulations change and you need to meet new environmental legislations or OSHA standards. So all these are quite common. No? We see all these reasons quite often.
Yeah, I would like to comment well some points here about this topic, because at the end I think so in biomass we have a very good opportunity while in participating in different let's say sectors, specifically in retrofittings in those sectors. So one of the sector is the one commented by Forcus. So let's say the pellet and all related let's say activities with let's say the forestry industry, so pulp and paper, so mills and so on, or white pellets facilities. But there are other sectors where retrofitting is almost a must, considering all the new requirements about the greenhouses gases effect. So the first one, would be the first generation biofuels facilities. So we know that in Europe, this sector involves the production mainly of biodiesel, so usually fatty acids, methyl esters, and so on, and either generated vegetable oil and so on. Well, the opportunities in retrofitting in this sector is mainly the conversion in this first generation biofuel plants into a second generation biofuels plants, or at least combining both generations. So for instance, by producing cellulosic ethanol latons or multi-feedstock biodiesel, or even more advanced electrofuel enhancements. So other sector where obviously is a niche for biomass is the fossil fuel fire power plants. So in fact, for instance, now as ENSO, we are participating in the assessing the some retrofittings in one of the biggest coal boiler here in Spain, with a rated capacity about 1,000 electric megawatt. So this is a niche where we have either partially or completely we can let's say play a significant role. So because at the end, so natural gas obviously is a fossil fuel, so it only, let's say, decrease or mitigate part of the CO2 emission, but biomass is, let's say, the right choice. So you want to remove totally and do away with the CO2 emission. So a third sector where we can play a significant role, although, well, obviously it depends on the technology, is the fossil refineries. So we know that this sector has been something that like something forbidden for biomass. So considering the high standard that are implemented in that business. But I think considering the state of the art in the biomass and bioenergy technology, so we can say and claim that we are prepared to to enter this business and to switch part of the oil consumptions in the refineries by biomass. So
Thank you, Elias. I think I'm gonna
let's
cut
say
you
that
there.
we have to open. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, no, I think we cover quite well. So I hear there are different reasons for which you might retrofit and different sectors in which that it's especially applicable. And one of the things that I think is very interesting of what you say is that the alternative in technologies. And I'd like to hear now from Sonia, because in particular, you do offer one alternative that is perhaps less common in the biomass industry. So could you comment a little bit on how you approach that in combination with pellet producers, and how are you integrating their operations and your technologies in their operations to provide an advanced capability?
Thank you. I would call the biocoal, what we call it sometimes, black pellet, which I would consider it as a second generation to the white pellet. It does have a little bit more advantage into many aspects, of course. It does not require a lot of maintenance or handling like the white pellet has to always be kept dry. It cannot be wet. The biocoal, you can leave it outside. Even in snow, it can be frozen or wet. It does not change its characterization or its form. One of the best issue of it, it has the same BTU value as the coal. So you are using less than the white pellet in order to reach the energy required for the power plant. You don't need to change the infrastructure of the power plant. So you keep the worker, you keep the power plant, the capital of the power plant without shutting them down or changing the boiler in order to accommodate. Those are the main issue between the two. So we collaborate with a lot at the beginning, lots of research and lots of development in order to reach a point that we need a compatible product to sub directly and phase out the coal, which Paris Agreement is, and every country on the world is looking for.
Perfect, thanks. So I think we're coming now to a point where we can more or less understand where each of you stand in terms of your activity and your state of the art and the possibilities of contribute to any company. But what I'm interested now in hearing is more on the collaboration side. So what can you offer? What are you looking for from this webinar? What kind of partner you would like to find that it's maybe listening there and they would like to know, yes, I think I can fit that profile. Who would like to start? Maybe Forcus, you would like to add something on collaboration?
Yeah, absolutely. We're always looking for collaboration with different companies, different profiles. I think where we have been, we have had very good collaborations in the past. I mean, these are just some of the some topics, but we could have other type of collaborations. No, we are always open to collaborations. But working with OEMs, original equipment manufacturers in different parts of the world for different technologies. No, in our case, related to agri products and wood. That's something that we're always looking for partners in that area. Also, companies that are already introduced in the wood or agri industries, but especially wood, that is the big one right now, and it's going to be for the next years, and would like to work as agents or dealers with some kind of agreement. That's something that has worked for us very well also in the past. And we're also always looking for manufacturing partners, no? That in order to be able to manufacture locally, companies that are already doing steel manufacturing, so that can work with us in different projects for everything that needs to be done locally, no? In Canada, in the US, or wherever, or Latin America, or wherever we are building the projects. So for us, I think, at least for what I think now, is those would be the big ones.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Bernie, what about you? What collaboration are you trying to build through this activity?
Well, we work well with everyone, or we like to think so anyhow. We've, like I said, worked with a lot of vendors, helping them develop their stuff. We have direct contact with clients who are looking to build pellet plants or sawmills, so we work directly with them mainly. But like I said, besides that, we have worked with the developing of the machinery and other pieces in between where to fill the gaps, and certainly structural and foundations and buildings. And basically, we're kind of a bit of an architect of how everything fits together, working with the vendors, support, of course, for their parts and what they require to make their stuff work well. And there may be more than one of them, sometimes 10 or 15 of them to put a plant together. So whatever parts we can help with, we're not trying to be the controlling type, but we're there to help wherever we can. We don't go into a plant either and critique it. We would expect the information from the plant of what does not work, because we can't spend the time watching and looking and give them that accurate of a solution that encompasses everything that might be an issue. So we would need them to contribute the areas of concern, and generally we can have 3 solutions for most problems that look to be improved and likely in flow, removing bottlenecks and adding on additional capacity or other type end products. I guess in a sense, I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to say that, because I kind of missed that on my previous. But that's about it. Yeah, and we've done that. We do about 100 projects a year, and they're very diverse. We're not niche. We're wide open to. We're dealing with everything from grain, sand, rocks, wood, in material handling. We do some limestone. We do some mining as well as so material handling. But mainly we're forest industry. But when things get a bit slow, we branch out into some of the other material handling elements. And so and a lot of creative thought has been put into what to do with the byproducts in a mill. Like I said before, when the pulp mills don't buy their chips anymore, well, we got to think about something else. So we've done fire logs as well as pellets, and taking it apart into little parts and sticking it back in. And we looked at torrefied as well. Which I think is a great idea, and it's great BTU value and like water resistant, and it's got to be the up and coming thing for sure. So there's some exciting stuff out there, and we'd be happy to help anybody develop it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So Elias, what about you? Can you summarize a bit about the collaboration that you were trying to achieve through this webinar?
Yeah. So as we are along the whole fuel supply and well, in the construction side and even in the ammonium side, so well, we are looking mainly for new developments. So in different countries. So from scratch, let's say greenfields. So it doesn't matter whether those projects are the power generation, cogeneration, or thermal projects. So as long as the main fuel is biomass. So we usually well, are, let's say, delight in engaging, well, partners in the supply side and in the development side. So because let's say that, well, obviously the local support is quite important for this sort of project. So let's say that those are our main, let's say, or that would be our main partnerships with the new colleagues.
Perfect. And I see Sonia. Would you like to respond?
Yeah, I would like to add one more thing. For our project, we are looking for partners as well all over Europe and international, in a matter of fact, to facilitate for us a chain supply for our product to power plants and steel industry. We would like as well, if we thought about partnering with other company in order to establish one plant in any other country in Europe, we will be needed partner in engineering, in construction, in supply, equipment supplies, shipping, trucking. It will be a lot of partnership which can generate a lot of jobs into different industries. So I always look at any innovation can take for us a clean planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we've come to the end of this discussion. I hope it was interesting for everyone and that has raised some questions and follow-up comments. So I think I'm gonna pass it back to Eugenia.
Well, thank you all for this inspiring debate. I think we have covered some quite interesting topics. I saw that via the Q&A, you started to chat with potential partners, which is great, but we don't have any questions coming from the audience. So just to close, I would like to briefly add a comment and following up on Maury's presentation. He mentioned the forest and the sustainable forest management policies and practices. We all know that Canada is a world leader in sustainable forest management. So just as a close, as a wrap-up question, what do you think is the role of the bioenergy and the biomass industry in promoting these sustainable forest management policies? Because in Canada, the regulations have been made in consultation with the industry. So I would like to know what is your views on the role that the industry shall play in promoting the sustainable forest management practices and policies. And I leave it open to anyone who could like to add anything, just briefly, because we are, well, we have already been extended in 4 minutes, but we can have this as a final question.
Just a quick reply to that. One of the things that we have in Canada is we're just going through a business plan development for is a Biomass Quality Network Canada. It's a new group that's funded through Agriculture and Food Canada. We're focused on the agricultural side more than the forestry side, but it is really to start developing a whole area around the biomass quality so that we know what's coming out of the field and what it can be used for and what it's going to take to build that quality, create some certification systems and so on. So it's something new. It's we're just developing a business plan for it, and there is a website, but the website will be more populated over the next few months as well. So something for people to watch for. It's just called BQNC, Biomass Quality Network Canada.
I would summarize very quickly because I know that for the timing, looking at any business model including for the biomass or any of these products, we need to meet 4 criteria, which is long-term fiber. We need to ensure that we have enough in order to operate as much as we can. Commercial viable technologies that is simple and straight and easy to maintain. Third, and economic transportation, we have to find out where we're going to ship the biomass to the plant or from the plant to the end user. This is very important in our business market. And then the market for the product, have an offtake agreement, line up already clientele for the shipment. So those are the 4 criteria which can increase jobs in many industry, economic and social development, and environmental benefits for a clean energy export.
just 3 areas where we have identified that there are opportunities to improve the business models. Small sawmills that have a small production of soda shavings that currently they are selling it for a very, very small amount of money because just to burn it, because they need to get rid of it. And they can produce a pellet plant, I mean, a small pellet plant attached to them that improves their business model by a lot. No, we've seen that in many projects. And then the other 2 would be agri pellets, as we have already talked about that in the last minutes. We're seeing a big increase in that, and also the use of for wood plants, the use of forest residuals and slash coming directly from the forest. That helps to clean the forest, also attracts population to rural areas and reduces the fire risks that is in the forest. No, so that's also a huge, and we're seeing all the big producers of wood pellets incorporating forest residuals more and more to their wood basket.
I was going to say that too about the forest residuals and stuff, and but as well on the torrefied side, I think another thing might be required is that you get paid for the BTUs that you get, that it's different to the white pellet, and that would probably be a huge help for you as well there, Sonia. If people paid for the end product based on the BTUs it created and not make it equivalent to white pellet. But anyhow, yeah, there was in the past a thought that leaving the residuals on the ground was going to give nutrients to the future forests and stuff like that. But much of the areas do have enough vitamins, don't require that, and it's just a potential fire hazard to leave that much residual on the ground. So many places are starting to have them clean the forest floors up after log, not just by burning them, but by bringing them out and making finding another use for that. And that's going to develop a huge amount of raw material to be put towards biofuels for sure.
I think we can close the webinar now. I would like just to mention that this year from the Trade Commissioner Service, sorry for the background noise, we are going to be focusing on bioeconomy. So for all the companies that are interested in bioeconomy, this will be a focus, a priority for us. And also to mention Expo Biomasa, which is the one of the huge biomass events in Spain, which is going to be held hopefully physically this year. So if you want more information on the market, please reach out to me or Nadia. You have our contact details there in the chat. I want to thank to all the speakers, the panelists. That has been super interesting. I hope that our audience have enjoyed as we have do. And thank you for your participation. And thank you, AVEBIOM, once again, and to all the participants, to all the attendees. We hope to see you soon, both in Canada and in Spain. Thank you so much.